You know what I want to do?
All right. And also, if I had a gavel, I'd use it, but I don't have a gavel, so let me call the meeting to order.
How's that?
That's good. I like that. All right. Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's in good health and positive spirit this morning, this month, whatever. And before we start, I'd just like to have everyone go around the room, introduce ourselves at the board, and then the staff to do the same. So we all know who we're meeting with today, and as well for the people, our vast audience who are watching our board meeting as we stream it out into the world. I'm Larry Schillinger. I with Albany County and from Albany County, not with Albany County, and I'm currently the chair of the Capital District Regional Planning Commission.
I'm Judy Bressler. I am representing Rensselaer County. I've been on the board for a number of years. I have no clue how many, but it's always a pleasure to be here and to meet new staff and look at all the wonderful work you're all doing.
Craig Warner, who represents Saratoga County from Malta. And on the board for about 8 years, I think. So it's great. But and really should help out in the county. Thank you.
Wayne Jenner, representing Rensselaer County. I got on the board last year about this time. I think I'm around my 1 year. And I apologize in advance, but I had a last minute team meeting scheduled for 10:30, so I have to duck out for about 15 minutes just before 10:30.
Elaine Hans, Schenectady County, Highway Engineering Department. I started the board about just under a year.
Bill Bruce, Albany County Commissioner. I think I've been on the board 18 years.
Almost 20. Wow.
Wow.
So you're like 5 years old.
I'm Agatha Reed, representing Clifton Park for Saratoga County. This is my second year at the District Regional Planning Commission.
I'm Michael Stammel, representing Rensselaer County. I've been on the board a little over 20 years. And always been a pleasure to see new things come to this body, see the body act on it, see it come to fruition, make a positive change to every county that's involved. Thank you.
Yes, I'm Jacqueline Stallone. I'm currently the first vice president of the board, and I'm from Rensselaer County. I basically have been elected twice to this position, so I'm not sure how many years that is. I know I've been here longer than Mark's been. So we're all here to move forward on things and make our environment better.
Kristen Swanton, Albany County. Amy Weinstock, CDRPC Office Manager.
Charlie Davidson, Schenectady County. I've been on the board probably for about a little over a year now.
David Holtenkamp, Schenectady County Service Secretary and Treasurer. Been on the board, I think, 3 years, maybe 4. Time flies.
It does.
Joe Grasso, representing Saratoga County, the town supervisor for the town of Charlton, which puts me on the Saratoga County Board of Supervisors. Currently the second vice chair, and I think I've been here about the same time as Mark. Of my work here.
We have a couple board members participating online.
Jason Kemper, Director of Planning and Economic Development, representing Saratoga County. No idea how many years.
Opal Hines from Saratoga County.
And I'm Mark Castiglione, Executive Director. I'll start here.
Tara Donanio, CDRPC Assistant Director of Sustainability.
Kate Maynard, Director of Planning and Economic Development, CDRPC.
Josh Dranoff, Sustainability Planner. Been here just over 2 years now.
Madison Roscoe, GIS and Data Analyst for CDRPC.
Kelly Balkanoff, Sustainability Planner for CDRPC.
Dr. Bosey, and I've directed sustainability programs, and I've been here for 28 years. So I think you got it.
All right, thanks, everybody. We're all together. Our next item on our agenda is our consent agenda. A lot of this is the carryover, Mark, if I'm not mistaken, from our previous scheduled meeting.
Correct.
Do we want to take these things individually or as a package?
We can take them as a packet unless anybody has any questions on those items.
Okay, well, these items consist of our meeting minutes, our pre-audit financial statements, our financial statements through March 31st of 2024, and the approval of a new, what's FSA?
Flexible spending account.
Flexible spending account administrator. What is that?
It's employees can fund on a pre-tax basis an account that they can use for their healthcare.
That's for healthcare, okay. So with that said, any discussion on those items on the consent agenda? If not, do we have a motion?
I can make a motion to accept the
David,
consent.
motion second, anybody?
Second.
Craig, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item on our agenda, we have a presentation on the Capital Region Housing Affordability Study, and that is very, very hot off the presses.
Right, so we try to stay relevant and provide the region with objective analyses to help elected officials and others understand what's happening in our region. Housing and housing affordability in particular has been a hot topic, not only, in our region, but across the country. There have been state bills that have been aimed at creating more affordable housing in the region. We have a region that's aging. We have a region that is increasing in rental housing. So we wanted to take a look at, how affordable is the average apartment for the average person? And that's what this report really does. And we have Madison Hrisco, who is the lead author of this report. That will give a presentation about what the report's conclusions are. And we've already had some interest in the media and elsewhere about the report's findings. So I'm going to bring up the presentation and turn it over to Maddie. I'm going to bring it up and then share my screen. It's a two-step process.
Okay.
Hang on.
All right, good morning, everyone. I've presented here before, but my name is Madison Hrisco. I'm the GIS and data analyst for CDRPC. And like Mark had mentioned, I'll be presenting the findings in our Capital District housing analysis. So I just wanted to start with some background information. This is pulling from the census. This is the number of renter occupied housing in each of our 4 counties, as well as the Capital District. From the 2018-2022 census, we have approximately 133,000 renters in our region, with the largest share of renters being located in Albany County. From the 2013-2017 ACS, we have an increase of 9.2 renters in our region. And that really just underscores the importance of understanding the housing and economic needs of this demographic in our region.
There we go.
So this is the first piece of information utilized in our analysis. This is looking at the renter wages, just our renter wages. And this is not something that's provided by our federal, our state, or our local data sources. This is something that has to be calculated in-house utilizing a variety of data sources like the census, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, as well as the Congressional Budget Office. And this is assuming a 40-hour work week here. And you can see over time, it sort of appears that renters are making more money over time. But if we take a closer look, we really see that it's not much. The lowest renter wage increase is in Schenectady County at only 56 cents. The largest renter wage increase is located in Albany County, and that's only 71 cents. And that's between 2022 and 2023. We also dove a little bit deeper and adjusted for inflation. We looked at 2020 and adjusted that information into 2023 dollars so we can get a better comparison over time. And we're actually noticing that renters are making less money now than they were in 2020, which the largest deficit is located in Rensselaer County at $2.88. So renters are making $2.88 less in 2023 than they were in 2020. Saratoga County is the only county that had noted an increase. However, it's only 42 cents. So that's the first bit of the analysis. The second now is taking a look at fair market rent in the region. And you'll notice this information comes from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, and it's at the geographic level of an MSA. So in the future slides and in the analysis, you'll see the same value for each of our 4 counties. That's just the nature of the data that's provided to us, and it differs from the wage data, which is broken out by county. That's just something to note. So you can see 1 bedroom at fair market rent in our region is around $1,000. For a 2-bedroom, it's around $1,300. Then I've added some other geographic regions for some comparison. You can see our region is 50% cheaper for a 1-bedroom than New York City. Makes a lot of sense. And it's 13% more than Columbia County for a 1-bedroom. So some examples. Now we can kind of, well, first I'll start with, we broke this fair market rent value down into an hourly wage. How much would it cost a person to afford a 1- and 2-bedroom unit in our region? And you can see it's $20.75 for a 1-bed, and it's $25.25 for a 2-bedroom apartment. And we can tack that next to what renters are actually making in the region and notice any deficits. And you can see for a 1-bedroom apartment, Schenectady County has a deficit of $3.33, meaning renters are $3.33, making that much less than what rent actually costs. Followed closely by Rensselaer County with a $1.75 deficit. And all 4 counties experience a wage gap for a 2-bedroom apartment, meaning it is unaffordable for one person to afford a 2-bedroom apartment in all 4 counties.
For the average renter.
For the average renter. Another way to look at this data is how many hours per week will a renter need to work, as well as how many jobs are needed for a renter to be able to afford these living accommodations. And you can see for the counties that experience the largest deficit, renters are working anywhere between 44 and 48 hours a week to afford a 1-bedroom apartment. For a 2-bedroom apartment where rent is unaffordable for all 4 counties, renters are needed to work between 46 and 58 hours per week to afford those living accommodations. Another key finding in this report that rent is outpacing wage in the region. From 2022 to 2023, we see a wage increase of around 3.3% for all 4 counties. However, rent increases for both 1- and 2-bedroom apartment types is 8.8. So rent is far outpacing wage increases. Another visual and a potential solution for people is if you aggregate 2 people's working annual renter salary and compare that to the annual salary it is to afford a 2-bedroom apartment, rent becomes a lot more affordable for people when those living expenses are split between 2 average working individuals.
Where it says wage gap in the last column there, so those are
Positive numbers now,
right?
because it's more affordable to split your living costs. Exactly. Now we're transitioning from renters to homeowners. This is a similar visualization as the first chart, and this is looking at the number of owner-occupied housing in our region. From those same 2 ACS periods, we note a 5.9% increase in homeowner-occupied housing in the region, with the largest shares now being in Albany County and Saratoga County. You can see that there's more homeowners than renters in Saratoga County between these 2 periods. So similar type of analysis, we're now looking at what people can afford based on what they make and how much that housing prices exist in the natural environment. So this is also information coming from HUD. This is the top chart I'm referring to is 1-person area mean income and 2-person area mean income. And this is just an indicator that HUD uses to conduct their analyses. And you can see we had to create some assumptions when looking at this data, such as a 5.35 interest rate, looking at this over a 30-year loan period, as well as assuming some homeowner insurance prices, as well as tax payments, which are averages coming from the census. So with all that information, we're able to get what mortgage a single household or two-person household can afford based on what they're making. Now we looked at what actually exists in the housing market, and this information comes from GCAR. It's a regional data hub for housing information, and this looks at Q4 or December of 2023. And you can see now it's split between our 4 counties. You can see the unique median sale prices. We assume a 6% down payment, and we're able to look at what mortgage is needed to afford a median home in the region. We then can compare those two numbers to notice any deficits based on what we can afford and what actually exists in the market. And you can see there are some mortgage gaps in all 4 counties for a single householder to afford a one-bedroom unit, you can notice the deficit for single householders to break into the housing market based on what they can afford. The largest deficit being in Saratoga County with over $100,000 deficit. And then for a 2-person household, there's still deficits in Albany County and Saratoga County. However, it is more affordable for 2 people to buy a house in Rensselaer County as well as Schenectady County. Just some closing thoughts, again, driving home some key pieces of data or findings from this report. The average renter does not experience a wage gap in Albany or Saratoga County for a 1-bedroom apartment at fair market rent. A 2-bed apartment is unaffordable for single renters in each county, like we saw earlier. Rent is outpacing renters' wage over time. Rent in a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment is more affordable when split between a roommate or a partner. 2-person households can afford to own a home in Rensselaer and Schenectady County. And for a single person household, Saratoga is the most unaffordable location to purchase a home. That is all I have for you.
Any questions for Maddie?
A lot to think about, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. The bullet about 2-person households can afford to own a home in Rensselaer and Schenectady. The converse of that is 2-person. Are we assuming there's 2 questions. One is 2-person households cannot afford to own a home
In Albany
in
and
Saratoga.
correct.
And does that also assume that the 2 people are both wage earners?
Yes, so if we go back one more slide. We used a calculation from HUD to determine the mean income for 2 earners, which is what we based the analysis off of.
And again, we're always looking at averages.
Correct.
So this is the average cost of a house versus the
Right.
average or the area median income of an individual
Correct.
in that area. And as we know, area median income will be higher in Albany and Saratoga County. But also, housing costs are typically higher in those counties as
Right.
well. And similarly, a big caveat on the renter data is that the average area rent or whatever the nomenclature
Fair
is.
market rent,
Fair market rent is at the MSA level.
similar to what we're looking at here, that area mean income also is at that MSA level.
Right, so if we think about, rents in the MSA includes Schoharie County, rents in Schoharie County versus rents in Saratoga County. We know that rents in Saratoga County will be higher, on average, but since we're looking at an, area average across the MSA, we may consider, wages in Saratoga County being higher, but also apartments being a little bit more affordable because we're looking at a regional average rather than the actual, rental costs in Saratoga County.
Someone who's working on the ground in Schenectady County, getting affordable housing online, other housing issues. I want to thank you. This is great data for us to have kind of as we're working on a project level, just remembering these big picture, issues or opportunities for the community. It's nice for us to see the number of units that we put online, understanding the affordability crisis for a single person or a single person with kids. But also, all the home ownership programs that we have, in Schenectady County, at least just to understand how those can be such value to someone, because once you get into home ownership, there is an opportunity for more affordability. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Yeah, Rich, Mike?
Yeah, just, I'm looking at it as an inner city person and, concerned about the family that is bigger than a one or two family bedroom. And, I know I had families that got 2 or 3 kids in their family, 3 or 4 kids in their family, and they're subject to 1 or 2 housing. And the state hasn't really put an incentive that I've seen, to push for more than 2 bedrooms, for the most part. Is there future studies that are going to be done to provide housing for those who need more space? I guess that is what I'm looking for.
I believe HUD produces fair market rent for more than just a 2-bedroom unit, and that's something that we can definitely consider and plan for as we update this report in the future years.
But contractors aren't building, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
But the state isn't funding them, they're not getting breaks to build that, the families are getting it. At one time, in one way, they're encouraging families to grow, and then, in the other way, they're squeezing them into a sardine can. So that's pretty much what I see.
Community Renewal do have new programs for, either renovating existing housing stock or building new. In actively, we have a lot of 2-family homes.
Yeah.
And we have taken models where, rather than the 2 flats, equal flats, how about think of a multi-generational living where you turn one into a 1-bedroom or a studio and then have the other unit be more than, the typical 3 small bedrooms. So, we did that through the land bank in Schenectady, but trying out those models. If you can find a model that works and then you pass it on to the private developers, there are funding sources available for it.
That's not something you're pushing through local codes, just something you're trying to encourage.
Well, it's allowed per code in their, zone 2-family neighborhoods. It's just rethinking how that house works.
Right.
It's not big family. Maybe it's, you have a big family and then you're aging out, but you stay in your same home because it's affordable to a 1-bedroom. So.
I think.
The thing about families, takeaway in this chart in particular is that a single parent with children in none of the counties who's a renter can afford a 2-bedroom apartment. So, and that underscores the challenge for single parents being able to afford a adequate place to live.
I think there's a challenge for married couples with a family too, that both of them have to work, that mom or dad can't stay home and be, the primary caregiver for the children. I think that's a thing that we don't look at enough.
Yeah, anybody here familiar with daycare?
Greg,
I want to say, I love the data. Is that file available to us to send to others?
You mean like the Excel background data or just the report in general?
That overall.
Yep, we can send a link out to where it's located on our
The
website.
other thing that perplexes me is you don't have any solutions though.
Wow.
I was gonna go there also. And I don't think we should put Madison on the spot to develop policy.
Yeah.
But I was gonna conclude with that, statement's a problem, now what? And I think David mentioned a few tools.
Right.
But I think what might be interesting, instead of having it. And I'm just thinking, again, sort of on the cuff here on the fly, but maybe this is an opportunity for us to have a dialogue. With our county folks. And then let that sort of percolate back up here. And then incorporate that into what possible policies could be developed.
Right.
To address the issues highlighted by the data.
For example, we've been talking about this in our town for years. It's in our comp plan. We've all addressed it, and I keep bringing up the thing, define affordability. Well, what is it? And it's always changing. It's market based. So we're always chasing the cat instead of solving problems.
Well, a very rough threshold is 30% of your income being devoted to housing. Anything above that is considered.
That's always been the standard.
Right. Right,
Madison, just anecdotally, wherever I go in the capital region, I see big new apartment complexes being built everywhere. And why isn't that increase in supply, softening the affordability issue?
I'll take that, because they're primarily being built as market rate units. And on the one hand, they're much more profitable for developers. And on the other hand, they're catering to a market who wants to rent and not own a home. We've seen a market increase since 2015 in the percentage of apartments being constructed in the capital district. What we're not seeing being constructed in the capital district writ large are small, single-family homes. It's really a divide between large apartment buildings and complexes or McMansions. The economics just simply aren't there for starter homes anymore.
Well, I was out at a modular home manufacturer last Friday. And I was amazed at the process, the engineering, the quality that is actually handled at that stage. And the way he's thinking is to try to provide a home that's high quality, up to code, exceeding the code, but also designing it so as the income of the buyer increases, his home has like a high cellar, a walkout cellar, so he can expand it to increase his actual equity. And the goal is to get him into the market early as possible, so they don't get caught up into the renting. Constantly going towards the rental market as that cost increases, he's not developing any equity. And I thought it was a great model.
Well, certainly new construction technologies are part of the solution.
Joe?
That's true.
Yeah, so not to take away from our board meeting, but I would, I think it was a fantastic study. I'm a data nut. It's a lot of data that can be very complex, and you made it really easy for even someone like me to understand. So I appreciate it. But I come back to the same thing. What are our takeaways? Even before we go to the counties, I would encourage, maybe we could have a roundtable discussion separate from a board meeting. And pick around the thing, what are the takeaways and what are the things that we could, as elected and appointed positions, do to address the issue.
Would you want to include some representative stakeholders, be it like someone from the tenants group, someone from a developer? And again,
We'll pick around the merits of that, what comes first, but I mean, I think we've got a really powerful group with the staff and the people that are on this board. I think a lot of us think about this, and I'll end with, I've been reading about and hearing about the affordability crisis and housing crisis for a few years now. I personally don't see the crisis in the data. I think that there's no doubt, as regional planners, there's things that we can do to improve conditions in the capital region. But I'm not seeing the crisis. Maybe it is in other parts of the state, but based on the data.
There's a crisis in the Hudson Valley. And they framed a similar report they did, Pattern and Progress folks did, as a crisis. We toned down our language, because while there are issues, it's certainly not as significant as it is in the Hudson Valley.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, so my thinking is to avoid putting this board in a position, this organization in a position of saying, here's what we think you should do. But to use this as an opportunity to meet with people at the county level, people at the state, at the local stakeholders, and then say, okay, this is the discussions we've had based upon this data, and these are the policy ideas that have come out from that process, so that we don't actually have to have ownership of the
Plausible deniability, you started.
Plausible deniability. No, but we don't have to have ownership of the suggestions, but we can facilitate the development of the.
Yeah, I totally agree. I just, you know.
Yeah, I want to say, I think one thing we need to think about is you could put more apartments for families who are in the cities. But a lot of our counties, they're rural areas and we're on wells and septic tanks. And how are you gonna put up, apartment complexes to handle, when you don't have water and you can't flush the toilet? It's a whole different ballgame for.
When you try to do that, the people who are already there are Johnny on the spot to come up and say, hey, you better not impact my well.
Oh, yeah.
You better not do this.
Right on.
And I think in the long run, planning is really great, but in the long run, the consumer's gonna have.
You gotta figure out
support
where
that
it
planning.
can go, where the infrastructure is.
Right.
Mhm.
So I would suggest that I'll do a little research to see if anybody else is already having these conversations. I may suggest a different format slightly, because this could be a regional workshop on housing. It could be something that we could leverage in our upcoming workshop in October. But I think, we should broaden, cast a wider net if we're gonna be talking about housing. So we have, Habitat for Humanity folks, we have the land banks, we have people that are actually trying to do this stuff. But getting a good mix of both urban, suburban and rural people, because the key to this, I think, solutions to this are well documented. It's like tools in a toolbox. Not every tool is gonna work for every municipality, but they can pick their tools, the tool that work for them out of the toolbox. But as we start thinking about these, it'll raise the profile of this issue, and I think that'll be a good thing for the region.
I think it's a great conversation.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. That's-
Yeah.
It's a great product. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, let's keep going because we got a lot to go through here. Mark, you want to update us on where we are with the renewal of our leased premises?
Sure, we're still in negotiation primarily on the final logistics and finishes of the upgrades that we'll receive for renewing our lease with the Peacock. The square footage price will go down a little bit. Our total square footage footprint will go down slightly. So the net cost will be a little bit less. So we negotiated $16 per square foot cost for our office space. That square footage cost will have built in the construction of a new office for our new water quality person, some upgrades to the kitchen area. Repair / upgrades to our heating and cooling system in the building, and installation of the drafty windows that are on the outside of the buildings. So all things considered, I think we got a pretty good deal with Peacock, and I think our approach in the negotiation and partnership with the Transportation Council down the hall was also very effective.
Yeah.
So the board action requested here is to authorize the executive director to negotiate the final terms of the lease and execute the lease.
Mark, did you look at other locations?
We did, yeah, we looked at other locations on Troy Schenectady Road, and we looked at a location in Manans. Both of those locations, the owner would provide a full build out of new office space for our specifications. We secured concept designs from those companies, and also square footage cost. Those costs were in the $17 and higher range. And we also looked in a location in downtown Albany, which was in that ballpark as well.
Good. So any other questions, discussion on that item?
I just want to ask, aside from the cost, do you and the staff feel comfortable here? Would be your desire to stay here is what I would assume, or?
Yeah, I think our desire would be to stay here. The location in Manans, and we love our friends in Manans, but it's kind of like a desert unto itself. The location in Troy Schenectady Road was, it wasn't any appreciably better than this location or worse than this location.
Okay.
And the prospect of disruption in our operations with a move and the cost of the move.
Yeah.
And the location in downtown Albany, we have a board that's from the region. And the reason why this location I think works well is because it has easy access from the highway. It's a first floor location, so easy in and out. that summarize what we talked about pretty much?
Yeah, I started thinking, well, if some of your staff said, I don't want to drive, I want to take a bus, could they get here? Is everybody happy in this location?
Yeah, I mean, one of the considerations with any location that we considered was it needed to be on a bus line.
Are we on a bus? I should know this. Are we on a bus line?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, I drive, sorry.
Depending on how many transfers you need to get. You're on a
All right, so, for board action on this, I guess the motion would be to validate everything Mark's done thus far and to, authorize him to keep going with his negotiations.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion made, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. I've lost my place on this. Not back. All right, so the next three topics are all very smiley, which is to accept additional funds from various sources. Mark, you want to walk us through those individually?
Sure. The first action is to accept an additional $2.3 million from NYSERDA. This brings us through to a certain period in 2026 to continue the Clean Energy Community Program. Many thanks to Todd for his leadership of that program, and his success of the program really was a motivating factor for NYSERDA to add additional money to this contract for the work that we're doing. So board action is requested to accept the additional funds. No
Okay.
match is required.
The what?
Match?
Oh, no match.
That's good.
Okay, so motion on the floor is to accept additional NYSERDA funds.
My motion.
I'll second.
Charles, Zach, seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The next happy event is to accept additional funds from ESD for our broadband access work.
Right, so Empire State Development offered us a non-competitive incentive proposal to support the work that we've done for broadband planning. This is $70,000, requires a 10% match, so there is a fiscal impact of that. I think that's a net positive. Because our, and we'll talk about this, our Northern Border Regional Commission through Department of State grant does not cover all Albany County. This $70,000 is being exclusively used in Albany County for related broadband work because the other counties are funded through the other grant. Any questions?
No questions or discussion. Motion on the floor is to accept ESD incentive proposal funds for broadband. Do we have someone to offer that motion? Don? Bill, second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
And next item is, this is also broadband, huh?
Lots of
Is
broadband.
to accept additional funds from the Department of State for broadband planning.
Sure, the Department of State subawarded originally $176,000 from the Federal Northern Border Regional Commission to CDRPC. That amount was increased to $352,000. And these funds can only be used in Rensselaer, Saratoga, and Schenectady counties per the eligibility criteria for the federal commission. So a revised scope and budget is attached. Work on this has already proceeded. The work has included submitting complete address challenges for the three counties. And in Saratoga County, the work has included regional broadband planning and address challenge work in areas outside of an existing 5-town region that the county is taken care of under a separate vendor. So we've been able to use this grant funds to expand the analysis in Saratoga County to include the entire county. We are continuing to work with our vendor on a variety of broadband planning things, providing technical assistance to internet service providers for the development of potential grant applications. And of course, we're going to be working with the counties and ISPs to develop applications to the BEAD program. And that's the federally funded program that will fund or subsidize broadband build out by internet service providers.
Okay, so the motion on the floor then would be to authorize Regional Planning Commission to accept additional funds from the Department of State.
Correct. And there's no
For broadband
match.
No match. Okay,
So moved.
Greg, Mike seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Great. Great work, guys. The next two items have to do with our financial statements and our preliminary proposed budget. Do you want to talk about those in tandem? Do they hang together or do you separate them out?
Separate them out.
Okay, so financial statements, I defer to you having chosen to go to law school because they said there wouldn't be any math. So take it away.
Okay, well, all the lawyers committing financial fraud, I think they. The estimates, so revenue estimates are tracking a little bit under par, and that's due to the fact that we don't book our quarter two grant expenses until the end of the second quarter. Expenses are tracking a little bit higher than par. The overperformance to par is primarily caused by payments to our broadband consultant for the work that they've done. So there were a lot of payments, almost $100,000 in payments that we've made, which is, it's a shot to our expense line because it's not allocated over the course of the year. So we have $156,000 in the bank. Our NICLAS account is $154,000, which means since we opened the account 6 months ago, we've earned $4,000 in interest, which is a lot better than $10. So thank you again, Joe, for bringing that to our attention. Our outstanding receivables total $416,000. Significant amount of the receivables are from New York State agencies, including one from the Department of State, where we've been waiting on payment for more than a year. But we continue to work on that. Any questions about the financial statements?
On the state reimbursement yet to be requested, I mean, that's kind of guaranteed we're gonna get that, it's just we have to request.
Yeah, you just gotta jump through the hoops.
Okay, yeah.
Are we gonna amend the budget with any of these increases in the broadband, or are we just gonna note the increases in revenue and expenses accordingly?
So before I submitted the 24 budget, we knew that we were gonna get the additional money for broadband. But we did not spend as much as I had budgeted in 23, and we're probably gonna spend a little bit more than I budgeted in 24. But,
As long as it's tracked in the minutes, we're fine.
right,
Thank you for your good financial stewardship.
sure.
Not bad for a planner.
And thank you for your oversight.
Two planners.
Kind of scary when you think about it.
Yeah, right.
So, any other discussion on the financial statements? If not, we can entertain a motion to accept the financial statements through May 31st. So moved. David and Joe, all in favor?
Aye.
Carries. Okay, moving right along, discussion on our preliminary proposed budget for, we're a calendar fiscal year,
Calendar fiscal year, yep.
2025.
So the purpose of this exercise historically has been to set the amount that we will request for our counties for the next fiscal year. This timing lines up with what the county's timeline for developing their budgets typically. And it's even better that we moved our board meeting to June because our July meeting was often a little late in the calendar year. So just the highlights, we're looking at a 5.2% overall budget increase on the revenue side on the 25 budget. The A&F committee is recommending increasing our aggregate request to the county by 3%, increasing it to $228,878. In 2023, every dollar the county has contributed leveraged $4.75 in other revenue that we use to benefit the region. Contractual services includes 9 school enrollment projections that we produce. Our annual workshop, we're budgeting on the revenue side 5,000, which is conservative. On the foreign trade zone side, we have a new user, which is GE Verona, and based on our workshop follow-up, we might have some new users. So that line has increased significantly, relatively significantly from last year. That is a $15,500 increase for our users. Now, NYSERDA covers expenses through 2026, so that is essentially status quo for 2025. The same thing with our Climate Smart program. While we have not been awarded a new contract under the Climate Leadership Climate Leadership Program. We do anticipate the DEC letting a grant application soon. They said that they were gonna do it 6 months ago, Todd, right? So we're still waiting for them to release the application, and we feel very confident that we will receive funding to that next application round. The CSO Corporation, basically status quo for our budget. EDA is status quo. We've received $70,000 from EDA for economic development work for many, many years. And just a contextual item, there is what's called a program bill at the federal level that would increase the amount of allocations to economic development districts like CDRPC. I believe up to $250,000 a year. So that would be a significant change to what we can do with our economic development portfolio. UPWP is basically status quo. And this budget anticipates that we'll spend $180,000 in 25 from the $352,000 for broadband work. Any questions on the revenue projections? And again, we'll dial all this stuff in before we present the final budget in December. Salaries reflect a full-time staff of 9 and 1 part-time professional and an intern reflected on the temporary services line. The expenses for the workshop is increased a little bit just because that's the cost of doing business for those kinds of things. Consultant services supports the maintenance of capital region indicators, our audit, our broadband inventory work, and some other support services related to our EPA grant. Computer supplies and software includes the whole host of software packages and programs that we use to make things work here. Rent, while I did mention that our lease would slightly result in a slight decrease, I anticipated a slight increase due to increased energy costs. Travel was trending down, so I'm just tracking the actual expenses from 23 forward to 25. We did increase workers' comp and disability, as well as unemployment insurance, because those things have been tracking as increases over time. And health insurance costs were increased by 5% based on the actual 2024 rates. So the unreserved fund balance at the close of 2023 was $730,000. Any questions on the budget?
I have a couple things. I'm sorry because I was in a meeting,
Yeah, that's okay.
last week. So on the stack, so where are we as of today versus the budget for next year?
So we're at 8 FTEs when we bring on the new person, we'll be at 9.
Okay, so we're down 1.
Mhm.
Okay. And then on the health, I know we talked about it during our meeting and I think we increased it from 4% to 5%. I got a letter yesterday from one of the town's health insurance providers, and they are proposing a 17% increase. Now, that hasn't been approved.
Right.
And that may not be reflective of our plan provider,
Mhm.
but it's a big needle mover in
Right.
healthcare costs today. So it's just something that we should, before we get to the final budget, we should try to dial that in and see if we're comfortable with 5%.
Are you comfortable with leaving at 5%?
For now.
That's preliminary.
We're in June.
Right, well, by the time we present the final budget, we will have the actual rates.
Yeah.
For 25.
All right.
So just know that it could be.
Yeah, that's a big item.
Yeah.
So I think the benefit with the New York State Insurance Program is that it's a large group plan. So it's somewhat insulated into the rapid increases because it's absorbed by, a large number of participants. But yes, we'll definitely keep it on.
Any other comments, discussion, thoughts to share?
The consultant services reflects all the changes in the broadband increase.
And I just want to highlight that the request to the counties individually for their pro rata per capita funding is a 3% increase over current.
Right.
Okay. So I'm going to come back to that in a moment, but before I do, the motion on the floor then would be accepted to 2025 preliminary proposed budget. Do we have a motion to that effect? Motion made, seconded, all in favor? Motion passes. I was going to say this in other business, but it's more relevant here. So we've had a discussion in the past meetings about making, a presentation to, each of the counties, at the county legislator or board of supervisor level, as the case may be. And of course, part of the concept of that is not, obviously, we want to make sure the folks at the county level, the local level know what we're doing and how we can be of assistance. But also, we want to demonstrate how much bang for the buck the counties and their constituents, you know, their residents are getting from the work we do, especially when you consider the match that every dollar drives, which is roughly
4.75.
so almost right. So
Almost $5.
almost $5 for every dollar. And so I'm pleased to say that if I've got the date right, June 17th, is that right?
Yeah, Tuesday, this upcoming Tuesday.
Next week.
Yes.
I'm flex. We have our first presentation scheduled up at the Saratoga County Board of Supervisors. I had one meeting, just introductory with, Albany County, legislature. I will renew that contact and get us on that agenda. And then I'll talk individually to the folks here from, Rensselaer and Schenectady counties. And let's move forward on that, because I think the timing is right to do that. And the other thing that was another business, but I might as well mention it now also, because it has to do with our ability to seek all these wonderful grants from various sources, is that I wanted to thank everybody on the board who put on their lobbying hats and made outreach to appropriate members of the state legislature. Our legislation that was pending that clarifies all regional planning commissions around the state having the authority to seek federal and state grants, passed in the waning hours of the state legislature and now is awaiting signature by the governor. So let's thank everybody for making that effort.
Thank you, Larry. You're
We
working.
think the governor's gonna be cooperative. on
Oh,
this?
sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I would
Pretty
think-
definitely.
So we got that. Next item on our agenda, we have someone new coming on.
Yes, this was our second attempt to hire a water quality person. Thankfully, we were able to receive a higher amount for our multi-year 604B grant, which allowed us to be more competitive in the marketplace in terms of salary. So Lauren Ortel comes with us, most recently as a graduate from Cornell's Master Regional Planning Program. She has practical experience doing environmental planning out in Colorado and has a degree in environmental design. I think she's going to be a really good asset to the team. She currently works or has most recently worked as an intern for the Troy Architectural Program. She came very highly recommended from them. Her role primarily will be split between being our lead person for water quality planning and also being our lead person for our technical assistance services. So she has a little bit of experience working in the field, and I think she's going to be able to grow these two programs very successfully. Any questions about Lauren Ortel?
She's a great resume. Is water quality her main interest, or you think she'll?
I think, overall sustainability and water quality is a significant slice of the sustainability puzzle.
And the CSO stuff, does that eventually fall under water quality or?
That's still gonna be Martin on a part-time basis. So we kind of administer the board as a team now. Amy works on the agendas, I review stuff, Martin emails stuff late at night. So we get it done.
Any other discussion, comments? There being none, motion on the floor. I'm gonna ask for a motion on the floor to approve a new hire. So move, Mike. May, and all in favor? Larry,
A comment after, I thought we gave Mark, I want to say, the opportunity to hire the staff without having our approval.
So the board action to amend our administrative guidelines was to authorize the executive director to hire staff
Right.
with the subsequent approval of the full board.
Okay, I thought we were gonna back off from the approval, that the executive
No,
director
no,
would
we-
have that.
We have the final say,
Okay.
but because there's a gap between our board meetings.
Okay.
We didn't want to
And that-
have.
and that's fine. I just-
It's fine.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I wouldn't want Mark to feel like I've got a person, I want to hire them, the board has to approve.
Exactly, exactly. And then that person finds something else. to do.
Exactly.
It's the boss, chasing our tail.
Right.
So, all right, where are we on the annual report?
Just waiting for the note from the chair.
Set yourself up for that.
Wow.
So it's a draft annual report. I mean, you know, still making some final tweaks, but actually, do you have a copy of the, I didn't get a copy. Does anybody have a copy of it?
Yeah, there's extras over there. You want to hand them? or-
Annual report.
Yeah.
Can I get a copy too?
Yeah, there's more over
Thank
there.
you.
Okay.
Wait, David needs one?
Oh, the print is single sided. Now we look like we're killing all the trees.
Mark, you know how many trees I've killed for the CSO meeting?
I know. So, the annual report, again, this is always tries to answer the questions, what have you done for me lately? So it just highlights all the tremendous work the staff has done over the past year. This year's annual report, which I think will carry forward into future years, is going to be a 23-24 annual report. Given the timing of when these come out, they come out basically 6 months into the year. I think the practice of, cutting things off in December didn't really make any sense. But just a couple highlights of the things that staff worked on. We hosted 11 webinars last year. We had more than 150 attend our workshop at Hudson Valley Community College. The FLIP program won the President's Award for Outreach from U Albany, which is tremendous work. You see all the various things that we've been doing for our data services program and more regularly updating a whole host of different data and introducing new data and analyses, as we just saw the good work of Madison. We recently released the population projections for the region through 2050. I'm sorry, 2050, not 2050. We did 3 technical assistance program projects in 2023. We secured an additional $2.3 million for clean energy programs last year. Our clean energy community program has secured $5.1 million in match-free grants to municipalities since it was started in 2016. So tremendous benefit that we're bringing to the region. The big news last year, at the end of last year, was receiving the $1 million grant from EPA to work on our priority climate action plan and comprehensive climate action plan. And thanks to the leadership of Todd Fabozzi for writing that grant, continues to expand our successful sustainability portfolio. Our water quality portfolio, the biggest thing that the CSO Corporation has done this year, or at least supporting the City of Albany Water Board in the construction of the Beaver Creek Clean River Project, which will have the impact of reducing the amount of CSO volume going into the Hudson River by 85%. It's the most significant environmental project between here and New York City for the Hudson River.
Is there gonna be a ribbon cutting on that?
love it.
Yes. But Albany, the city of Albany is in the driver's seat.
Good.
Continue to remind the mayor that we're waiting to have that. Kate Maynard, our Director of Economic Development, was successful in helping secure a $4 million grant for workforce development related to electric vehicles for Hudson Valley Community Colleges. Anecdotally, I had to have my EV sent in to the shop, but had to wait an extra week because the only EV mechanic was on vacation. So it's certainly an area for growth, and we've had exponential growth in the adoption of electric vehicles in our region year over year. We've done a variety of economic impact analyses, including starting one for the University of Albany. I mentioned our award for broadband, and of course, we've made tremendous progress in the expansion and improvement project at the secure detention facility under the auspices of the Capital District Youth Center. The project at the end of last month was 66 complete, more than $12.6 million spent on construction to date. And we have, we're poised to open the new dormitory unit next week. So it's a big date. We have a new recreation yard. We have new pervious pavement basketball courts, parking lots, solar panels on the roof. So significant milestone for that project. And I'd just like to thank the staff for their tremendous work. Without their work and their outreach, a lot of which goes unseen, CDRPC would not be in as good a position as it is right now. So join me in thanking the staff. So this will be distributed to the county legislatures and other elected officials once it's finalized.
When will it be finalized, you know? It'll be online?
Today.
It'll be online?
Yes, we have, all of our annual reports are posted under About Us, and then there's links to each annual report.
Okay, next item and last item on the agenda is other business. I mentioned the two things I wanted to mention out of order on other business. Anyone have any thoughts they want to share? Mike?
Yeah, I just wanted a little update on the CSOs, where we stand as the region, as far as getting as close to completion as possible, if that'll ever happen. I have heard rumors that, that they're thinking about extending it again, so, I just, it's always digging into the well, so.
Right.
I'm concerned about cost.
So just in a nutshell, for members who might not know, CDRPC hosts a municipal corporation of 6 municipalities, riverfront municipalities, and 2 sewer districts that are all engaged in a 15-year long-term control plan addressing a consent order that was issued by the DEC to get poop out of the Hudson River. So there have been 50 or so projects to date that have been completed by municipalities. Each of the municipalities shares costs for all the projects. Doesn't matter where the project is built, they all share the costs in it. The largest project constructed in the 15-year long-term control plan is the Beaver Creek Clean River Project, and it will have the most significant impact in reducing the amount of CSO volume collectively among the 6 communities and 2 sewer districts in the region. 85%, it'll reduce 85% of the flow from the city of Albany from an outfall called Big C, which is located by the U-Haul building in downtown Albany. This facility is a marvel of engineering. It's created to hold back hundreds of millions of gallons of wastewater, send water down to the South Plant, Albany County South Plant to get screened. It will do chlorinate and dechlorinate the water to provide treatment, and then hold the water back and let it out at a rate that the sewage treatment plant can actually treat, and thereby reducing the amount of combined sewer overflows that go into the Hudson River. So this is by far the largest project. There is a similar project, albeit an order of magnitude smaller, still to be completed in Cohoes. And there are a variety of post-construction monitoring projects. That means they have to take a look at how the infrastructure is performing by monitoring and testing the water to see if there's less E. coli and other things going into the water. So that'll be a multi-year process. You point out that nobody's safe while the DEC has people working in the office. And so it remains to be seen whether or not any obligations will be extended beyond the 15-year long-term control plan. But still, the EPA and the DEC, are always interested in improving water quality. And so we'll see what it holds.
Well, one thing being, are we on track to
Yes.
complete the 15 years? Okay, and 2, I got a great idea what was on Rensselaer County. I don't know where we stand in some of the other counties and trying to project, outreach costs and things of that nature. So, that's what I was kind of looking for as well.
Do you want a presentation update
Yeah.
at at our October board meeting
Yeah, that'd be a
perhaps?
good idea. To know where we are.
I joined Bill Simcoe, who's the deputy commissioner for the Albany Water Board, at a meeting of the Hudson River Estuary Program Advisory Committee last Wednesday at Norrie Point. And sharing with that group, who was very interested in water quality in the Hudson River, information about this project, which they had not heard about. And they, it's going to be the most significant environmental project between Albany and New York City. So they embraced it, and they were also looking forward to being a part of a ribbon cutting event in Albany when it's ready to go.
Thanks, Mike. Any other comments, discussion, concerns? Hearing none. Entertain a motion to adjourn. Seconded by the group. And motion carries, no doubt. And thank you, everybody, for your participation.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dad.